All right, here we go with chapter 15, talking about character voices now, especially as it comes to things like cartoons, animation, and gaming. Vocalizing characters. A forced character voice is rarely the most effective. It's also going to be difficult to sustain and can actually cause physical damage to your vocal cords. So you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you're creating a sound based on something that is rather unnatural for you to be able to produce, to where you are putting too much stress on your vocal cords, your mouth as a whole. That can actually be dangerous and damaging. So, effective character voices are going to be those that originate from your normal voice. So that what you're trying to do with a character voice is you're making a slight alteration in the way that you would normally speak, where you are going to basically be doing something that's rather unique while at the same time creating something that by and large is going to be somewhat natural to reproduce. You are going to exaggerate the attitudes, the emotions, and the personality traits of the character being portrayed, because many times the animation aspect of cartoons is one where those things play off really, really well. Also, take a small quirk or idiosyncrasy of the character and blow it out of proportion. You can do that through a shift in placement of the voice, through differences in texture, tempo, rhythm. And this can be anything from pitching your voice higher or lower to speeding up or slowing down. It can also basically be kind of using a difference in the volume of a voice that you give. There's many different ways that you can alter your voice in such a way that it creates a completely unique sound while still maintaining good vocal health. Now, the trend in feature film animation lately has been to apply very real human characteristics and vocals to animated characters. Many times in cartoons that are put out in motion picture theaters these days, a lot of times you will actually have professional actors that you see on screen that are lending voice to many of these cartoon characters. So it's many times they're just using their natural voice, maybe with a slight exaggeration. So there is been that trend, at least in that aspect of animation. While on television and various types of kids shows in particular, you still have some of the more traditional cartoon character type voices that we may be more familiar with. Many factors affect the voice, so the more you know about the character, the easier it will be to find its true voice. It's, again, doing the work of understanding the story, understanding your character's role in the story, learning as much about the character as you can so that you can try to determine what the voice of that character would be. Consistency, also extremely important. When you find a character's voice, lock it into your memory and keep the proper physicality, attitude, and quality of sound throughout your performance. In other words, avoid allowing the sound of your character to drift. It can be difficult to maintain that consistency, especially if you're either doing multiple character voices for a particular story, or if you're in a situation where you're kind of breaking up the times that you're recording different voices of the character at different times. But you need to be able to find a way, once you determine what the voice of that character is, to be able to recreate that in a believable way every time that you go and do that character, so that Bugs Bunny always sounds like Bugs Bunny, that Fred Flintstone always sounds like Fred Flintstone, and on and on and on. Most animation and game voice actors have a repertoire of several voices. Character voice actors must be extremely versatile and must be able to accurately repeat and sustain voice characterizations over a long period of time. Just what we were talking about. Especially if you are doing multiple voices, you have to be able to find that way to recreate the voice pretty much on demand when you need to. Character voice work can also include dialects, foreign and regional accents, and celebrity impersonations. Let's talk about celebrity impersonations for just a moment. These voice impersonations and any sort of voice matching that you try to do, it's often going to be the most challenging because the celebrities, the people that we're dealing with, usually they're well known. The voice actor's job is to create either a very accurate representation of the celebrity's voice to replace or alter a celebrity's voice in a film or TV show. This is what we call voice matching. This is a real job where perhaps in the course of editing, maybe there was a sound issue during the filming, but the picture that they want to use is absolutely perfect. But for whatever reason, they can't get the actor to come back in to re-record that line. So they will use a impersonator to read that line. So they want the celebrity impersonator to be able to recreate that voice almost indistinctly from the actor himself, herself. So that is voice matching. The other scenario would be a voice that offers recognition of the celebrity, yet hints at being just a bit different, like an impersonation. This is something that we're a little more familiar with, especially if you watch a comedian that does impersonations of different voices. Political figures are very popular at being impersonated in this sort of way. You know, watch any given episode of Saturday Night Live and you will find that. But other celebrities and things as well will also have this sort of slight imperfection in the impersonation in order to create sort of an eccentricity of the person that's being impersonated for comedic effect. Now, Pat Fraley offers 6 critical elements of a character voice, and these are things that need to be considered whenever you're deciding what sort of voice to give to an animated character. First off, pitch. The musical notes of the character's voice, the actual sound of the voice itself. How do you create a high-pitched voice like a SpongeBob SquarePants? How do you create a slow drawl like a droopy dog? What does it take? Pitch characteristic, the dynamic of the character's pitch. So it's not just, if it's high, if it's low, it's also kind of the coloring, what makes a voice unique and distinct, the actual quality of the voice. It's not just about pitching your voice high or low, but being able to hit a certain stridency, hit a certain sort of ability to maintain that voice and create sort of a personality along with the voice as well. Tempo, also important. The character's general rate of delivery, the overall speed, the range of speed. Many times a character that speaks quicker is someone that is going to be excited all the time, or hyperactive, or perhaps really anxious. Someone that speaks slower may be seen as less intelligent or perhaps very thoughtful and pensive. And those things are going to determine the makeup of a character. Rhythm, a repetitive pattern of emphasis in the way a character speaks, which emerges from the thinking and feeling of the character. This would be a vocal expression of his MO, his modus operandi, or his mannerisms. These are things that are going to kind of help to see some of the subtext of characters in particular. What's really going on underneath the surface. Placement of the voice. We're talking about physical placement here, where the voice seems to be coming from. Is it more of a throat sort of source? Is it more nasally? Does it come from the tips of the lips or the back of the mouth? Where is the voice actually coming from? And then the mouth work. Anything done in and around the mouth to affect the character. So you have here accents, physical behavior, the way that sounds and words are made. This can also involve over-articulation, under-articulation, all those sorts of things. The way that your mouth actually moves to help create the sound of that character. Okay, finding your voice. Begin by doing a thorough character analysis to discover as much as you can about the particular character that you're giving voice to. And the author of the textbook has provided something wonderful for you. It's a character voice worksheet. And this is a way to help you to be able to determine how to give voice to a character. He breaks this down into 4 different parts. First part is accessing and recalling the character voice. And in order to do that, he suggests that you give your character a name. Perhaps the name is already given, especially if you're working with a well-known character. Perhaps it's an opportunity for you to give the name to a character. You want to make sure you're able to define the character's age, gender, attitude, the physical attributes of the character, the energy level of the character. All these things help to describe what the personality of the character may be. Create a key phrase that will allow you to return to the character. Just about every character has some sort of saying or phrase that they are well associated with. You see the examples on your screen there for Bugs Bunny and Fred Flintstone. You also have, like a Homer Simpson that kind of drools in the way that he thinks about things, like donuts, that sort of thing. But just about every character is going to have some sort of phrase that is kind of their signature. And even if they don't, there's going to be different ways that they say certain things that's going to be able to help you to get back to that place of the voice characterization. Second part, placement. Determine where in your body you are positioning the voice. Is it the front of the mouth, the back of the mouth? Is it nasally? Is it throaty? Choose the appropriate 6 character elements of your character's voice. This goes back earlier in your notes. Look at all those things. All those different things that Pat Fraley had talked about earlier in the chapter. Understand the character's emotions and feelings. What's going on inside of them mentally and emotionally? That's also going to determine how you give voice. The physical aspect, this is part number 3. Determine how your character stands and moves. Do they use various facial expressions? Do they have gestures that they use quite a bit? Is there some sort of a quirk to them that we see? And how can that be characterized through voice that complements those things that they do physically? And then there's other notes as well. And this basically encompasses any other thing that you may notice that will help you to be able to find and recall the voice of your character. So, now some tips. Choose your character's voice only after you fully understand the story and your character's role in it. You have to understand what you're getting yourself into, what the character is getting itself into in the scope of the story, to be able to give the particular voice and then the particular attitude with the voice that they have. Second, understand the scene, getting into the details of the story. Discover who the audience is and how the audience will relate to the character. Who is it that is ultimately going to be consuming the content and being entertained by it? Again, it's that idea of meeting the audience where it's at. What sort of things would they expect and would enjoy in the experience of being told this story with this particular character. Fourth, maintain a consistent voice throughout the script. Whatever voice you decide to give that character, you have to commit to it. It has to sound the same every time that you do it. Be willing to exaggerate attitudes or personality traits. Part of what makes animation exciting for people is that the characters themselves are animated, not just in the drawing of them, but they're animated in their personality. And we tend to see that in light of certain personality traits that are exaggerated, a little bit off kilter, those sort of things. Really play those up and have fun with them. And also use a picture of the character to discover its personality. Just by looking at the character, you may be able to associate the look with a feel that you have as you create the voice. Find the place in your body from which the voice will come. Not just within the mouth, but within the body itself. Is it deep within your diaphragm? Is it a little higher up? Is there a tension in your body? Are you more loose? Those things will help you. Experiment with Fraley's 6 character elements of your character's voice to discover the most appropriate vocal delivery. Play with all those things. Finally, experiment to take on the physical characteristics of your character. Little trial and error never hurts, especially if you have time to play around with that, because you might create something that you never thought you could have and it just fits perfectly. And then once you do that, again, remember how you did it, commit to it, and be consistent in its delivery. All right, so there you go. We do have some more sample scripts at the end of this chapter that I would like you to take a look at. And then once you've done that, make sure you finish up all the notes and the study questions. And then the usual things that we do. Prepare for the class meeting by taking a look at the pre-class questionnaire on Blackboard. And we'll see you when we get together to talk about this chapter. Don't forget to keep monitoring Blackboard and your Cougar Mail if there's any changes or updates to what's going on in the class. And make sure you reach out to me if you have questions, issues, concerns, or want to talk about things in deeper detail.